since it had always been something we knew we would do, we didn't see any reason to wait.
We really wanted something that would remind us and him of this bridge that he has crossed from Ethiopia to the United States, and like from one family to our family. And so that's where his name comes from. This Briggs were people that lived under a bridge, and they were people that were connected to a bridge. And so that meant a lot to us, and just that it was a bridge between two cultures and two families, and just connecting.
Adoption was something that we had always talked about, something that we knew would be a part of our family makeup. So after we had been married about 6 years and were ready to start a family, at that juncture in time, adoption was really on my heart. So I proposed the idea to Mark, like, hey, I think we're ready for kids. What would you think about starting with adoption? And after a little bit of time and thought, he agreed that that was where we would start.
I had known that Becky had been talking about adopting, but she came in very heavy with saying we should adopt first. And that was shocking to me. There was a lot to process there in that decision. And so it was a fine conversation, and it was good to talk about it, but it was definitely shocking to me.
From the first paperwork that we turned in to having Briggs home took a total of 28 months. So the first year of that was a lot of paperwork, a lot of meetings. We had to share our whole life story and our finances and our deepest, darkest secrets with all parties involved.
It was really probably a bit more difficult for Becky than she would admit. Being on the other side and watching Becky go through it, and just seeing the pain of all of the checkpoints you have to go through for adoption, and it being so far away and so many unknowns, is a lot more painful to watch versus actually being in the midst of it. So it was definitely more difficult, I think, on Becky, because there was this huge desire to be a mom and to bring this child, and then you just continually wait. And we would, every time the phone would ring, we would think that was the call or that was the email, and it just wasn't. And so that was difficult to watch, because we all wanted to know. We wanted to talk to our family about it. And so yeah, it was much more difficult thinking back on it than we probably either of us would admit.
So when we were matched with Briggs, it came in an email from our caseworker. And she basically said, I have a match for you, but I want to make sure that you guys are together before I send any pictures or any information about him. So Mark and I can't remember if he was at work or what was going on that day, but we were able to get together within an hour. And then she sent us the email. And so first she gave us information about Briggs, because she said, I don't want you to fall in love with this adorable little face before you know about him. So we went over some of just his history and medical history and how old he was and those details. And then she sent us the pictures, and of course he was just this little chubby 4-month-old and looked like a happy little guy.
He looked so scared, like, originally. And so, for us, you just have this deep sense of like, is our child okay? Which is interesting, because it is definitely your child already, but like, there's no other relationship there. So like, there's this weird thing that happens that like, you already become a parent at that moment. Like, is he okay? How can I help him? What can I do? Is he getting fed? Is he, all of these questions? So you have a flood of questions of like, what can we do now? So being a parent often happens like right at birth. And that was like kind of like that birth moment with pain, but different pain at this point. So it was immediately you begin to feel like a parent when you see that photo.
So once you see the pictures, and you know that there's a child that you're matched with, it's impossible to not just be, enamored with them right away.
It's such a culmination of all of this work that you've done that it's like now real at this point. Like, it's always been real, and you've always known you're going to adopt, and like, this is going to be amazing. but then it becomes like real immediately. And that's like a pretty cool moment. Because it's not only real to you, but it becomes real to your whole family at that point. Like they've known you're gonna adopt, but like they haven't seen all of the work that you've been doing in the filing cabinet full of papers and and the tears and the joy. And when you can put a face to that, it really makes a big difference. So for us, that was so much joy for us to be able to start looking forward to like, this is our son.
Man, I think knowing that he was our son was like a gradual and continual process. I mean, I think, from the first photos, especially when we were sharing those photos with others. So every time that we looked at them and got them out and told about who he was, it was a little bit, it became a little bit more and more real to us, sharing the excitement. And then we'd get updates every month so we could, see him grow and see the new things that he was doing while he was still in Ethiopia. But then I think that process of him like feeling like our son, it continued like after they put him in my arms. And that first day you spent together, you got a little bit closer, and then the second day, and then after the first month, and then I think it was about the 6th month, after he had been home about 6 months, when I felt like I just feel like you've been a part of my life forever.
So the first trip, we didn't get to see him a lot. We did a lot of touring around the city, which is great because we got to understand the culture. But that first moment of getting to see him, it's sweet but awkward, like all at the same. Like it just has a lot of feelings in it, but that's kind of how it is. You're like, I know you, and like this is the start of something really long, and but he doesn't necessarily know that. And so there's just like this sense of like elation and joy, but also just a lot of misunderstanding and unknown. It's difficult becoming a first-time parent with an adopted child as well, because you have no idea what you just stepped into. And so it was complicated in that sense of that unknown as well. I remember the first moment that it really felt real, that like this was now not just my responsibility, but like there's a deep love and a connection. And it was really, I think it was the first night that we had him, and he was just laying on my chest sleeping. And that was like such a huge sign of like him relaxing and resting, because it had been a pretty bumpy day and just a lot of like, I mean, can you imagine going from multiple caretakers and in this house of lots of babies and lots of crying to like now 2 caretakers and no other babies at this point. And so I think that was the moment that I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be all right.
Briggs is very inquisitive. He asks more questions than anybody I've ever met. He wants to know how things work. He wants to know the history of things. He wants to know what happened in the past. He wants to know what happened in the future. So I think Briggs is a kid who loves to learn. He loves to inquire about things. He loves to read. So I think definitely one thing I appreciate the most about him is his inquisitiveness and his desire just to know about things, and a wide variety of things. He has a wide variety of interests, but he's gonna drill down until he gets to the bottom of whatever mystery he finds in something. I think of a memory when I took him to San Francisco. He was 5 years old, and we went to see my sister, and taking him onto the Golden Gate Bridge, that he was just so excited. He truly marveled at that sculpture. He appreciated the art and the engineering of it, and just getting to take him onto the Golden Gate Bridge, and we walked out there, and the water was below, and there was a surfer down along the shore, and he just wouldn't leave. He could see no reason why there was anything else he ever needed in his life other than to stand there and ask questions and think and look at the ocean and watch the surfer. And I felt like that was a moment that really embodied his personality and the way his mind works.
He is so adventurous yet so timid, and oftentimes the memories that I have of him is him trying things that he didn't think that he could. And it takes a lot of internal work for him to get there. So watching him play hockey has been a big one. That's really cool for me. Growing up playing hockey, like to see him get that and love that has been really fun, to watch him get that. So we have a lot of those types of moments, whether that's riding a bike or even just like mowing the lawn, like finding those moments that just mean so much.
Briggs has impacted me in huge ways. Before I became Briggs's mom, my life just looked very different than it did after. He's made me a lot less selfish. He's made me a lot more thoughtful. He's helped me inquire about things that I never thought to inquire about. He's forced me to use Google a lot more than I ever did because he always wants to know the answer. I think he's helped me become more compassionate. He's helped me become more understanding of other women as I've experienced motherhood myself through Briggs. Then I have, deeper relationships with other women who are mothers. Yeah, I think he's helped me to do less thinking about what I want and just more thinking about what he wants and just what others around me in general want. My hopes for Briggs would be that he can really put his mind to work, that he will learn to ask the right questions, to discover answers that lead him to knowing what's possible for him. I would hope for him to be educated in whatever vein he decides to take that, but to just continue to pursue stuff that he's interested in as he grows up. I would hope for him to always have rich friendships. He's an excellent friend, so I would hope for him to always have, just people around him that love him and are great friends for him. I would hope for him to have a great relationship with his brother and sister as he grows up, those would be relationships that last a long time. And I don't know, I have hopes for Briggs for being able to pursue sports in a way that is fulfilling for him. He loves sports. So I don't know what that will look like, but I would love for him to be able to continue pursuing those activities that bring him so much joy and fulfillment.
I really want him to grow up and be confident in himself and in his skills. He is an extremely intelligent child, which sometimes makes me look not so intelligent, and we do a lot of Googling and a lot of answering questions, but I just love that about him, and I hope that he just grows up to be confident in his skills and his abilities and the intelligence that he has. And I think that he'd be a really great dad, and I think that'd be such a cool cycle and circle to watch him become a dad. He talks about not really wanting to get married, but I think that's because he doesn't really like girls right now. So I think that's where that's coming from. And so he just loves kids and just cares for kids quite a bit. So I think that'd be cool to see him become a dad and walk through that process.